In the South Collinwood neighborhood of Cleveland, the transition from winter to spring 2026 was marked by a discovery that would shatter the community's sense of safety. On the evening of Monday, March 2nd, a resident walking his dog near the Gin Academy noticed his pet becoming unusually fixated on a mound of earth. The dog's persistence led the man to a black suitcase, partially unearthed in a shallow grave. When he unzipped the fabric, he was met with a sight that forced him to call 911 immediately. Responding officers from the 5th District found not one, but 2 suitcases buried approximately 25 feet apart. Inside were the remains of 2 young girls, later identified as 10-year-old Amor Wilson and 8-year-old Mila Chatman. For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button. The discovery sent shockwaves through the city, but for one man, Deshaun Chapman, it was the end of a 5-year nightmare and the beginning of a new one. Deshaun is the father of Mila. He last saw his daughter in 2020 when she was just 3 years old. A happy-go-lucky girl who loved the color pink and swore she was a princess. For half a decade, Deshaun had been a fixture in the local family courts, filing for emergency custody 5 different times and working with child welfare agencies to find his daughter. The chilling irony of the case is that while he was searching the state for her, Mila was living in a house on East 162nd Street, directly across from the field where she was ultimately found. As the forensic teams moved in under the floodlights that Monday night, the scene was one of clinical tragedy. The suitcases weren't hidden deep in the brush. They were visible from the street, resting near a school where other children gathered every day. Cleveland Police Chief Dorothy Todd described the situation as horrific, noting that the girls appeared to have been there for some time. The lack of immediate missing persons reports for the sisters added a layer of confusion to the investigation. How could 2 children vanish for years without the system sounding an alarm? The answer lay in the isolation of their living situation, a veil of privacy that kept their father at bay and the community in the dark. By Wednesday, March 4th, the investigation reached a significant break. Detectives executed a search warrant at a residence within a block of the field. Inside, they found evidence that directly linked the home to the suitcases in the field. But they also found something else: a 3rd child, a young boy who appeared to be in good health. As he was led away by the Department of Children and Family Services, the woman in the house, 28-year-old Aliyah Henderson, was detained. She was the mother of the 2 girls and the primary gatekeeper of the secrets held within those walls. The neighborhood watched in stunned silence as the house was cordoned off. For years, neighbors had seen Henderson but rarely, if ever, saw the 2 older girls. The invisible life they led was a calculated existence, one that allowed their absence to go unnoticed by everyone except a father who was told time and again that his daughter could not be found. As the sun set on Wednesday, Deshaun Chapman received the call he had feared for 5 years. The investigators told him his princess was gone. But as the police began their final interviews with Henderson, a new question emerged. If the boy was safe and healthy, what had happened to Amor and Mila that led their own mother to treat them like refuse? For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button. On Thursday, March 5th, 2026, the investigation culminated in formal charges. Aliyah Henderson was officially charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder. The legal threshold for aggravated murder in Ohio implies premeditation and a purposeful intent to take a life. As the details of the charges were read, the public began to grasp the scale of the betrayal. Henderson wasn't just a suspect. She was the person who was supposed to be the girls' primary protector. Instead, she is accused of ending their lives and concealing their bodies just steps from her front door. The Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner used DNA relationship testing to confirm what the police suspected. The 2 victims were half-sisters. While the bodies were found in March 2026, the medical examiner noted that they had been deceased for an extended period. This timeline aligns with Deshaun Chapman's struggle. He had been blocked from seeing Mila since 2020. The investigation is now looking into exactly when the girls died. Were they gone for months? Years? The fact that Henderson continued to live in the home, raising a 3rd child while her daughters lay in shallow graves across the street, suggests a level of compartmentalization that has left even veteran detectives shaken. During the search of the home, investigators recovered substantial evidence that pointed to a struggle or a crime scene within the residence. However, the initial autopsy results provided no clear indicators of the cause of death. There were no gunshot wounds or obvious signs of trauma, leading forensic experts to look toward more subtle causes, such as long-term neglect, malnutrition, or poisoning. The chief of police has deferred these details to the final toxicology reports, which are expected to reveal the true nature of the sisters' final days. The community's grief has turned into a demand for accountability. A memorial of pink balloons and stuffed animals has grown at the edge of the field near Gin Academy. Mila Chatman visited the site on Thursday, holding a photograph of a smiling 3-year-old Mila. "I felt useless," he told reporters. "I couldn't save my baby." His frustration is echoed by many who wonder how the child welfare system failed to locate the girls despite his 5 emergency custody filings. The system's inability to pierce the walls of Henderson's home allowed a tragedy to fester in plain sight. Henderson's background is now under the microscope. Those who knew her described a woman who had become increasingly reclusive. Phone numbers once linked to her were disconnected or changed, making it nearly impossible for family members to track her down. This digital and social blackout was essential to her ability to keep the deaths of Amor and Mila a secret. She effectively erased them from the world before they were ever found. As the prosecution prepares its case, they are focusing on the logistics of the crime. Burying 2 suitcases in a public field is not a silent or quick task. It requires effort and the risk of being seen. The proximity to the home suggests the bodies were moved under the cover of darkness, perhaps during a time when the neighborhood was at its quietest. Investigators are currently reviewing doorbell camera footage from the entire block, hoping to find the moment the invisible girls were finally taken from the house for the last time. But as the evidence mounts, a chilling realization is setting in. The 3rd child, the boy found alive, may be the most important witness in the history of Cleveland's criminal justice system. What did he see? And what can he tell the world about the mother he lived with and the sisters he lost? For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button. The legal battle for Amor and Mila is only beginning, but the focus has shifted toward the systemic failures that allowed this to happen. Mila Chatman's story is a central pillar of the tragedy. He didn't just lose his daughter. He spent 1,800 days trying to find her. His frequent attempts to gain custody through official channels highlight a massive gap in how missing children are tracked when they are in the custody of a parent who is actively hiding them. Because Henderson never reported them missing herself, the girls were never placed on a national registry, leaving Deshawn to fight a ghost. In court, the prosecution will lay out a timeline of Henderson's movements over the last 5 years. They are tracing every address she lived at and every person she interacted with. A key part of the better storytelling in this case is the contrast between the life Henderson was presenting to the world, raising a healthy son, and the reality she was hiding. The state will argue that the placement of the bodies in the field was a final act of indignity, a way to discard the children she no longer wanted to care for while maintaining her life just yards away. The role of the Gin Academy and the surrounding neighborhood is also being re-examined. Because the area does not see a high volume of foot traffic at night, it served as the perfect, albeit temporary, hiding place. The dog walker, whose name is being kept out of much of the official narrative for his own privacy, is being hailed as a hero. Without his dog's intuition, it is entirely possible that Amor and Mila would still be Jane Does in the eyes of the law, and Mila Chatman would still be filing custody papers for a daughter who was already gone. As the medical examiner works through the backlog of forensic evidence, the city is preparing for a trial that will likely revolve around the concept of failure to protect. If Henderson didn't personally cause the physical trauma that led to their deaths, her role in their neglect and the subsequent concealment of their bodies still carries the weight of a life sentence. The community is watching closely, with many calling for the maximum penalty allowed under Ohio law. The memorial at East 162nd and Midland continues to grow. It is a place where neighbors who never knew the girls' names now come to pray for them. For Amor and Mila, the field near the school was the last place they were seen. But through the eyes of the community, they are now more visible than they ever were in life. The pink ribbons fluttering in the wind are a constant reminder of the princess Mila was supposed to be and the bright future Amor should have had. The trial of Aliyah Henderson will eventually provide the how and why, but it can never undo the when. The fact remains that for 5 years, a father's plea went unanswered while his children were within his reach, hidden behind a front door that no one thought to knock on. Justice in Cleveland will now be measured by how the city ensures that no other child becomes invisible in their own neighborhood. The next time Henderson appears in court, she will face not just a judge and a jury, but a father who never stopped looking. The story of Amor and Mila is a call to action, a reminder that we must look closer at the mounds of dirt, the silent houses, and the children who deserve to be more than just a memory in a suitcase. And as always, you've been watching True Crime Story Vault, where every story is told with facts, empathy, and respect for those who can no longer speak for themselves. For more true crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button, like, and comment your thoughts below. Until next time, remember, the truth is never buried.